Welcome, everyone. This is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Rearden, and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about health and wellness, and then understanding, well, what aspects of health and wellness are critical for us understanding where we are, and then for us taking action to where we want to be. When it comes to our health, it is the last thing we worry about, I think, sometimes, because we are just so inundated with all of our responsibilities, whether it be as a man or a woman or a daughter or a son or a father or a grandparent or a mother. I mean, there's just so much going on there where it's just like we are juggling so many different hats, so many different situations, and so many problems sometimes. And sometimes those problems begin to pile up in our life. And as much as I wish I can say, well, life should be without problems, life is riddled with problems and issues and things that need your attention, need your hand to start to take action, put things in the rightful place. Yet, one of the things that people like to do is we like to just throw things in the corner. Yeah, I'll do it later. Well, this is not important right now. What that does is it creates a bigger issue that we have to take care of. Think of it akin to laundry. Maybe you have a lot of clothes in your house, right? Like for me, I have clothes for probably like 2 or 3 weeks. I probably don't have to wash clothes. Yet, if I wait 3 weeks to wash the clothes, I'm probably go to like 2 or 3 hampers. And it's like, okay, well, now I have to wash the clothes. And that day is going to literally be me washing clothes for the entire day. Just a couple of weeks ago, I said, I'm going to do a little bit of spring cleaning is what I could said, or summer cleaning, whatever you want to call it, right? I said, let me just spruce everything up. I got all the blankets. I said, I'm going to wash all the blankets. I washed all the blankets. And it took me all day long. And I had like 4 blankets, and I had a bunch of sheets and stuff, and not to mention the regular weekly laundry. So everything was a lot of work. And I was like, man, this is a lot. But by the end of the day, I felt proud. I said, wow, I got the cleaning done. I feel good about this. I mopped. Everything was nice. But sometimes in our life, we don't have the luxury of time, or we don't have the luxury of knowing how to create that routine or that system to get things done. And that's going to be the foundation to health and wellness, because if you don't know how to proceed, how can you proceed the right way? We may have an idea of what health and wellness is. And I'm sure health and wellness, when it comes to someone's mind, they're going to think, oh, I have to go on a diet, or I have to be on keto, or I have to do Whole30, or I have to go to the gym, or I have to be a yogi. There's just so many ideas to what health and wellness is. Yet there's no right or wrong answer, because it could be unique to you, because something that works for you might not work for me. For example, eating at night, I don't think that's the healthiest option. Yet maybe you have a schedule that requires you to eat at night, because you work nights, so you sleep during the day, so you have to eat at night. Maybe that night is your day, but that's just the cycle that you're in. That's the system that you create, or the routines that you have to develop into. So there is no, one stop fit all. Don't eat at night, because if you eat at night, like this is a bad thing or something like that. Or don't eat 3 hours before bed. But maybe you didn't eat nothing all day. Now you're just like famished and you're just like dizzy and things like that. Maybe you don't have food. So then that's the situation. But we can begin the process to get our life back on track. How do we get our life back on track? Well, we do have to create a little bit of awareness. We do have to create a bit of understanding of our situation in our environment, and maybe even of the behaviors that we have. And then from there, we begin to implement a process. Today, I'm going to be bringing on a health and wellness coach, Sophia DeSantis, who's going to be helping us understand a little bit of the problems when it comes to health and wellness and fitness and all of that, and what type of problems people might be facing in the world, and then giving us some solid advice and maybe the scaffolding and the structure that's going to help us understand, well, what is health and wellness and how do we get it? So here's an interview with Sophia and myself.
I know you've been hurt, I know that you're trying, the boss is complaining.
Welcome, Sophia DeSantis, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for coming on. Today, I have you on as a health and wellness coach, and that phrase or that name is so generic. It's similar to a life coach. We do so much more than that. And I know we do help people in so many ways more than just their health and their wellness. That can encompass so much. And in your world, I know you do so much. You help people with so much. And you probably help people with things that people don't even realize that they need help with. And that is where a coach comes in. That's where having a guide is so important for people, because we don't see our blind spots. We don't see the areas where we can make improvement. And that's the wonder of coaching. And that's why we're here. And we're going to be talking about the work that you do today. In your own words, can you please tell the world who you are, what you do, and how you help them?
I am Sophia DeSantis. I actually wear many hats. I'm a health and wellness coach, but I'm also a food photography, a recipe developer. I work with brands to bring their, brands that I love, to bring them to my audience. But basically, I think I help people move towards wellness, because I don't believe wellness is like an end spot, right? It's not something like, oh, we've achieved, we're done. It's a continuum, and some days you wake up and you've moved forward, you feel great. Some days you wake up and something happens and you move backwards. It's kind of like a up and down this continuum. And I kind of give people tools to help themselves. I don't believe that someone can necessarily help you and move you towards wellness. I think you have to do it within yourself. I just really give people the tools and the scaffolding, them help themselves.
And you're right. People are not going to just take action because they are like, oh, it would be a good idea to work on my health and wellness. Typically, people don't take action until something bad happens in their life, right? They had that negativity. They get hurt. They get a doctor's note that it's not really the best information that we want to hear. And then we begin to say, you know what, maybe I should look at myself and I should start to be more serious about foods I eat, the lifestyle that I'm living. What do you find is the most common negativity is what we're going to call it, negativity or negative habits when it comes to health and wellness?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing is stress. I mean, yes, food is important, movement is important, but I think stress is actually, you could eat the healthiest, quote unquote, healthiest diet. You could exercise every day, but if you don't deal with the stress around you, and it could be silent stressors, it could be, there's stressors that we don't realize. And once you really have to stop and be really introspective and look at life in general. It could be that friend that, every time you talk to them, you feel just not great. There's so many ways that you could have these underlying stressors that you don't realize. Learning to say no to things, that in my opinion is the first, because once we deal with the stress, the other stuff just kind of, in my opinion, falls into place.
Yeah, let's break down stress in the aspect of health, because that is important. I think people don't realize just how much stress can impact their life. They have maybe 9 to 5. They have to make ends meet. They could be a single parent. They can have a child with special needs, and it's so much for them. And they just have this plate that's just every day, just a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And they don't do the self-care to start to say, okay, well, this is not important for me today, right? What are the priorities? So they just think they have to take on the world when really the world is just giving them things that they don't have to take on. Yeah, food is a big thing, but stress is one of the biggest things, because people don't even realize that they're stressed until they have a heart attack, until they have a mental breakdown, like psychotic episode. And at that point, they're like, wait, what's going on? This is not me. That realization right there is so powerful. Do you think people come to you knowing they have stress, or is it something that you help them uncover?
Ultimately, whenever you go to get help, there is a stressor in your life that's causing you to get help, whether that stress is, I want to eat healthier, I don't know how, or whatever that stress is. Yeah, anytime you go get help from anybody, there is a stressor. And I think people automatically think of stress as work stress or things, but there's so many stressors. It's easy. And I also want to be careful with saying, talking about stress as somebody who lives in privilege. Yes, we work hard for what we have. We live in a very safe neighborhood, a middle upper class neighborhood. And life is easier for me than it is for a lot of people. You have people, lower socioeconomic areas, and people that have been born into a life that, yeah, like you said, they could be essential workers. They could be a single parent. And it's easy to say, oh, you have all the stress, but there are things that they cannot control. They don't have the access. Food can be a stressor. You stress about, am I going to have enough food to eat? Like that is a huge stressor. My mom grew up very, very poor in a village in Greece. And one of her main stressors was food. She didn't know if she was going to eat every day. Her and my dad were immigrants here in this country and have made an incredible life for themselves through a ton of hard work. But my mom grew up with nothing. And so food was a huge stressor for her. And it's easy to say, well, get rid of stressors. Well, you can't get rid of that stressor, but it's not just the stressors. It's approaching it. It's not that the stressors you necessarily can get rid of, because there are stressors that you can't. If you're a single parent, you may not have the money to hire help, that's a very privileged thing to say, well, get help. Well, you may not be able to, you don't have access for that, but it's how you react to that stress is more important than the stressors themselves. So if you are a single parent, if you don't have the money to afford certain things, there are things you can do for free that you can make time for, even 5-10 minutes a day, like silent meditation, doing things that are self-care for yourself at home. Like self-care, a lot of people, think like they envision going to the spa. Well, I mean, that's expensive, but you can do things at home for yourself to help reduce that reaction to that stress. I think like in the wellness world, you go online and the picture of wellness is very privileged in my opinion. And I'm one of those. I mean, I am privileged. Like yes, my mom worked hard. She taught me the value of hard work. I work my butt off for my business. My husband works his butt off. We were born into a lot. I think that it's time to take that look of wellness away as the privileged person and, spread the word that wellness can happen for everybody. It doesn't matter. Your access to things will be harder depending on where on the socioeconomic scale you are, but you can still learn to calm your body, get those moments that will help you react to the stressors in a healthier way, if that makes sense, right?
Makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah. And same with, going back to food access. I just had this conversation online. Someone was talking about organic foods. And yes, do I buy organic foods? I do. Do I buy only organic foods? No, I don't, because sometimes I price shop and there's certain things to me that I choose to do organic more than others. Not necessarily because I think organic is better. And for me, I try and buy local over organic because of flavor, because of how long things last. But organic foods are another privileged thing. There's ways to get fruits and vegetables in that aren't organic that are just as healthy. And also, if organic is important to you, there's ways to have more access based on what you can afford, like frozen and canned vegetables. People tend to have this vision of healthy eating as all these fresh vegetables. And it's yeah, they're great. But what if you can't afford those? Or what if you want to buy in bulk? You can't buy in bulk necessarily fresh veggies because they go bad. Well, frozen vegetables, most people don't know, are frozen at peaked ripeness. Same with canned. They're canned at peak ripeness. And sometimes those actually might have more nutrients than a fresh vegetable that's been trucked from across the United States for a month. They've been sitting in peak ripeness is ideal with so many ways to get wellness into your body. And it's kind of breaking those barriers of what typically it looks like, if that makes sense.
I'm glad you brought up this topic where wellness is kind of like that commercial Hollywood picture. It's just like you go on Canva, you go on a website, and they're just happy. And if it's a male and a woman, he's picking her up and she's so happy. And it's like that fairy tale happy ending. Yet sometimes in our life, we're not going to get that, right?
Most times in our life, I would say we're not going to get that. I think that life is Hollywoodized a lot. And the reality of life, people get disappointed because get married and you think, oh, I found my Prince Charming. Well, marriage is hard. Spoiler. You have kids and this perfect little baby. Yeah, no, parenthood is really, really hard. Spoiler. All these stressors. And you're right. Wellness has this perfect, beautiful picture. And it's no, and it's a continuum. There's days that I've worked so hard to be where I am, and it is hard work. You have to choose to do the work versus take the magic pill or the quick fix. You have to choose to do that work. And some people choose not to, which is fine. You do what's best for your life. But I chose to work on my wellness, and it's been hard work. And some days I move backwards, but that's okay. That's a reality. That's okay. Moving backwards doesn't mean failure. It just means that something's happening right now. What are we addressing? Last week was really stressful for me. We had a ton of kid activities. We were home late every single night. My kids didn't get as much sleep as normal, which means they were super crabby. We were always in a rush. It was just packed just by coincidence. It's like everything fell upon us that last week. And it's like tonight, we actually have nothing today. And I'm so like, today I said, everyone's coming home. We are getting our house back out of disarray. Like we have laundry piled up, and we're just going to chill tonight. Don't ask to have friends over, nothing. Like we are kind of a reset for us. And I definitely have felt the stress on my body. And one thing for sure, I work with a functional medicine doctor just for some health reasons that I had a couple of years ago, and just found that they have helped me so much. And one thing that is very apparent to me, especially now, is stress. And when you're in, going backwards in wellness, it can come out physically on your body. So when you have a headache, when you have a stomach ache, when you have pain somewhere, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're sick physically, chemically sick. It doesn't necessarily mean you hurt yourself, but it could be the stress coming out in physical ailments. I think that's like a big thing that people go to the doctor and they're like, not all doctors. I have a wonderful doctor. You could go to, some doctors, especially those that are rolling out the patients, like they're mills, like they may be like, oh, you have a headache here, take this pill by. It's not like, what's been going on in your life? Oh, your boss, you got a new boss and he's super rude to you. Oh yeah, that's stressful. Could cause stomach aches, headaches. It's important that when we look at something, we look at everything going on in your life if you really want to move towards optimal wellness.
You brought up a hot topic there when it comes to going to a doctor or a health professional, and they give you the magic pill, right? So you go in, you say you have all these problems and ailments, and they say, take these and you're going to feel a lot better. Do you think that we should be taking those medications, or we should be looking at the root cause and trying to address that?
I'm not a medical professional, but I will tell you in my own life, my own experience, I do believe in a balance of Western and Eastern medicine, naturopathic medicine, Western medicine, whatever you want to call it. I believe in a balance. I think there's medical advances have been incredible for us. I'm not anti-medication. I'm not anti-medical treatments. I'm not anti any of that. I just think that sometimes, and not all doctors, I think more and more doctors are being educated more about this, but sometimes the pressure from the insurance companies, whoever it is just get them in and out. The more patients you see, the more money you make. I think that sometimes there are doctors that don't stop and find the root cause and they band-aid it with medicine. Yes, I do believe that because I have experienced myself that issue. I went through the little backstory is I got married in my late 20s. We tried starting to have a family. I had a miscarriage, and that was the beginning of a 3-year journey fertility problems. So we struggled for 3 years. We went through IUI, we went through IVF. I did acupuncture, I had a surgery, like all these things to try and have a baby. And eventually we did I brought in a naturopathic doctor to help because when you are trying to have a baby and you're going through fertility, those of you that might be listening that have, you'll try anything. And at that point I was like, I'll try anything. And so that was how bringing that into the puzzle of all the team that we worked with, that was the big change that allowed me to get pregnant. And then I, had 2 more, not because I was trying, it just happened, which was crazy. My fertility doctor told me the biggest cure for infertility is actually a full-term pregnancy because it resets your hormones. But after my 3rd baby, when I was 39, my body actually shut down again. And I went into early onset menopause. I'm 45 now. Women menopause, like you can be in perimenopause for many years, but most women don't start experiencing menopause until their 50s or so. And I had early onset. Part of that process for me, it was very fast and furious, was I had major anxiety. I have anxiety in general. I've always had like anxiety, more than normal, but it was major anxiety, like constant anxiety attacks every single day. And I got to the point where I was losing weight. It was awful. So I went to my doctor and she was like, you're a mess. Cause she saw me, she know me. She was like, you're a mess. Like, we need to put you on some meds. So she put me on anti-anxiety meds, which like helped big time. But after a month, the side effects, I was fine for about the first month. After a month, I started getting side effects and they were very gastrointestinal side effects. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Benefit was the benefit was now not enough to outweigh the side effects. And so I needed to go off them. So she's like, okay, let's get you off and maybe let's give you a break and try again. But every time I tried, the same thing happened. And I started seeing a naturopathic doctor, functional medicine doctor. She's an MD, medical professional, but when she went to medical school, she went to naturopathic medicine versus, traditional. And I started working with her, and it wasn't a quick fix. I would say I still work with her. I still struggle sometimes, but I would say within a year of her helping me naturopathically, taking on meditation that I have a very ADHD type mind. I'm always going. Never in my life yoga was not part of my practice. Meditation was not part of my practice. I was like, yeah, that's not for me. After a year of doing both of those things, working on myself, saying no to things, reducing stressors that didn't serve me, I changed my life. That is one example of how the medicine didn't help me. I needed something more. It did help me for short periods of time, but then there's always side effects to everything. But this is just the path that has worked for me. I don't want to take medicine because it doesn't work. I don't like the side effects. My body doesn't do well. I don't think medicine is bad. I think medicine can help people for sure. I just think that we also need to find the root cause. And the root cause for me were my adrenals are my issue. And so that's what I work on constantly. Adrenals are your emotional centers. Not shocked on that, but finding the root cause is always important, because even if the root cause is something that needs medicine, great, wonderful. But when we don't find the root cause of something, it's never going to get better ever, because you're not dealing. It's like having a toilet that's constantly clogging and you're just Dranoing it, but you find out that, there's a weird pipe or whatever that you need to fix. It's never going to get better until you fix that.
It's so much when it involves our body, because we have to figure out what is really the problem. And maybe we don't want to figure out the problem, because then we're going to get that negativity saying, hey, this is the issue. Oh my God. Some people are afraid to go to doctors because it's like they're afraid they're going to get bad news. And that news can actually save you. Early on, there could be things going on in your body that can be prevented from developing to something even worse. Yet we just have that fear within us saying, you know what, I'm just too afraid to take action. So they don't take action, and they wait and they wait and they wait until they're in the hospital and they don't have a choice anymore. We have those early signs, right? Those early signs of problems coming to us. How can you help people be aware to that, or are people aware of that?
Well, definitely easy to ignore signs because you're pushing through your everyday, but it's important. Yeah, you're right. But it's hard. Is this early sign just something that'll pass, or is it really a sign of something? That's a really hard thing, because I've been there too. I'm feeling kind of low energy. Is something coming on? Or is it just, I'm just a lot going on and I just need to get some sleep and I'll feel better. But it's also, there's so many factors. There's also, like you said, there's people that can't just afford to go to the doctor. They don't have insurance. So it's like, maybe they don't even have a car, and getting to the doctor, they have to take the bus. It's like, of course, they're not going to it's harder to make that effort to go. And statistically speaking, you have people in lower socioeconomic areas that are sicker because they don't have the access that we do. Again, there's so many layers to this. And also, like you said, they're afraid. Well, some people are afraid because they've been treated really poorly by medical professionals. Maybe they're larger in size and medical professionals assume that they're overweight because they eat bad or they're not healthy. But that's not true. Health every size is a very true thing. There are thin people that are much more healthier than larger people. Maybe it's because we can even bring in race into this, doctors, the whole race thing in the medical community, being treated poorly because you're of a certain color. Of course, how do you blame people how do you blame people they're afraid to go to the doctor when they've had awful experiences? If you've had an awful experience at a certain store because the manager is rude, you're not going back to that store. So it's it's such a web it's a very hard, there's no right answer there, because you have to, again, what's the root cause? Why are you afraid? Do you have a reason? Maybe your mom died of cancer and you're afraid to go to the doctor because when you were a child, your mom died of cancer, and subconsciously you associate doctors with her death. There's so many intricacies, and yes, we can deal with those. I believe, I've had a lot through naturopathic medicine and therapy and things like that, uncovers some of those inner core fears and stressors. But again, you have to have access to those things. Not everybody does, because insurance doesn't cover my functional medicine doctor. I pay out of pocket for that. And there are times, we definitely don't have a limitless budget. So there are times where I don't see my FMD unless I need to. I am best when I see her. I usually see her every 2 to 3 months. I am best when I do check-ins and see her at that time. But there are years where, like last year, we were on a really tight budget. We just had a lot of stuff going on. And so I only saw her a couple times. I wasn't at my best, but I had to sacrifice because, we couldn't afford it because it's out of pocket. Insurance doesn't cover it. And why doesn't insurance cover it? I don't know. I mean, there's lots of theories, but insurance covers medicine. They cover doctors. And it's like, why shouldn't everybody have access to all types of care? Why is it that some people only can afford, like, for example, Kaiser is a big medical. Why can only some people afford Kaiser and can't afford to go somewhere else? It's complicated, I think. And some people can't afford insurance at all. So they have to go to the emergency room because the emergency room can't turn anybody away. So you have people with colds going to the emergency room where people with real emergencies are. And I've been there. I've been in a situation where my child had a real emergency. And it's frustrating because you have people that are just sick. Well, hard for me to blame those people to go to the emergency room because they can't afford insurance. They can't go to the doctor.
When it comes to the health system, there are so many areas that can be improved upon, whether it be the cost of insurance, making insurance affordable, just healthcare information to people so they know where to go if something is wrong. Because you don't have to go to the ER when you have a little sneeze or a sniffle. You can go to your family doctor, but you might not have a family doctor, right? So then giving that knowledge to people saying, well, if you don't have someone you can trust, like a doctor like that, there should be like a directory that you can find locally very easily. I'm not just talking Google. I'm just saying that where to go instead of saying, well, I have to go to the hospital. Here in Texas, we have many clinics. So we have our big hospitals and we have a lot of little small family clinics. We have commercial clinics, and that's where people typically go now. They go to the hospital for the big things. So we separated it here, but I'm from Connecticut. In Connecticut, we don't have that. We just have the big hospitals. So something is wrong, you need to go to the hospital. And then even the doctors there, it's kind of like few and far between where you're looking for someone. And when you call them saying, hey, I have an issue. Oh, we can't see you till next week. So you have this concern right now that's on your mind and you have to wait a whole week in order to get it. So your only option is, well, what can I do? I have to go to the hospital. And that's where people are. And they're afraid of the hospital. They want to find a doctor. They can't find a doctor, have all these problems. And again, it's just access to healthcare. And it's different state to state. Like I said, Texas, I think, does it a little bit better because we have so many clinics around. I think just around my house, there's probably like four clinics around me and 2 hospitals. Like I have my choice, but in Connecticut, I had one choice. My doctor was always busy. I would have to wait at least a minimum of 3 to 4 days. That is the life that some people live in. That's a circumstance that people fall into sometimes. It's just because, location.
We have urgent care clinics here too. But my question is to your clinic, but back to what if someone doesn't have insurance and can't afford, are they able to go into the clinics? Will they be seen? Because I know that I think the only place that we'll see somebody without access to healthcare is ER.
Yes, they will be seen. They will get a large bill. Like that was a big thing with Obama when he was sitting president, because people will go to the hospital, rack up a huge hospital bill because, again, they have to take care of you, them not be able to pay it. So it just kind of sits there as debt.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, and that's ultimate, bringing it back to wellness. Like this is wellness, taking care of yourself. But, what if you don't have access to the things that you need to take care of yourself? It's just helping people provide access, that education of what can you do, and having systems and programs in place to help people even to get to a clinic. Because as I said, what if you don't have a car? What if, you have to walk to the bus stop and it's freezing cold and you don't have a jacket? What if, there's so many intricacies in all of it, that starting with the things you can do for free at home is a great starting point. But then you also have to get that information to people. And what if they don't have a computer? Because now it's so easy. Oh, we'll look it up online. Well, what if they don't have that? And it's hard to think how can someone not have that? Well, they can't afford it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a perfect segue to now really get into the work that you do. What are maybe 5 things that someone can do to start a better life with health and wellness at home and not just saying, okay, well, I need to figure this out. My circumstance doesn't allow for me to see a doctor all the time, but at least I can begin the process.
I would say having a good routine, that's like a big thing. Having a routine, either like first thing in the morning, last thing at night, because, middle of the day things, you go to work, you do whatever it is can go haywire, but having a good morning routine and evening routine is really important because I feel like a good morning routine sets you up for the day. Whether that's, I like to get up and work out in the morning, that helps get my blood flowing. It helps me be energized for the day. When I don't work out, even if it's like a simple yoga or stretch or something, when I don't do anything, I'm definitely more sluggish throughout the day. Getting outside, I am lucky to live, in a place where the weather, well, typically we've had rough weather lately, but typically the weather is nicer. So it's easier to get outside. But even if it's like in a covered patio, like getting outside and that fresh air really helps. Whether it's you drink your coffee outside, even for 10 minutes, just having some sort of routine when you wake up. And if you have kids, getting up before your kids, that you have that quiet time to yourself, because waking up and having to get right into it is hard. And then in the evening, having a routine, a calming down routine, because sleep is so important, right? Like getting good amount of sleep, it's really important. So if you're on your phone, on your computer, watching TV, like all the way up until the time you go to bed, your body's not getting time to wind down. And I'm not perfect at this. Some days, I love to read before bed. Like that's typically my routine. So having an evening routine, whether it's like you take a bath or a shower, you do a stretch, you meditate, having something you do that leads up to bedtime that tells your body it's time to relax, it's time to go to sleep. And you get in bed and read for a little bit. Establishing those routines, I think, is one of the most important things you can do. And it's free because you can do it at home.
It's important that we give ourselves a starting point, I think, when it comes to our health and our fitness and our wellness, because it could be a daunting task to take on everything at once. But if we just learn how to take things on, and have those small victories, it doesn't have to be big, right? Again, creating that routine is so important because then you create the habits and then, of course, everything follows. Now, of course, there could be things that are underlying beyond your routines and your habits, and you're going to know that as you begin that process, like, okay, I'm doing the right things, but something is not right. And then that right there is going to be the trigger for you to see someone, whether it be a doctor or, just speaking with a health and wellness coach like yourself, Sophia, that are going to give people a little bit of awareness to their situation. Because yes, like you and I are not medical doctors, but we can offer some insight for people saying, you know what, I think that's a bigger issue and I'm not able to help you, but I know a doctor can help you. And that is where we shine. Like we can look at someone's life and we can see what areas can be improved on, maybe areas that may need a little bit of adjustment. And it's all to help the client be in a better place. And the work that you do helps people be in a better place. And it's so important, the work that you do, because we live in a society where health and wellness are on the back burner most of the time, right? The kids need to go to soccer. All right, I'm tired, but I have to take the kids to soccer. I have to, go see my parents because they're older, right? I have a lot of laundry in the house. So things pile up. And then we finally say, okay, we're going to get a day and we're going to take this day and we're going to make this day the most productive day possible to get our lives back on track. And that is what you do. You help people understand where they are in life and then helping them get back on track with less stress, with better routines and habits and more structure, right? The scaffolding you talked about is so important. As we begin to wrap up, can you please share with us any last words and then please tell the audience where they can find you?
I just would say that my last words would be, just because something works for somebody else doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Like we're surrounded in a society of the online media, social media, and we see things and we're like, I want to be like her. I want to be like him. I want, it's more, statistics show it's more women than men that see these things and want them. Men do too, but in general, with how you look, how you, I want that picture perfect life. Well, that's just one picture in a series of pictures and you don't see the ugly parts of it. So just start small, look at your life, don't compare. And like you said, tiny steps. It's better to master a tiny step because if you try and bite off the whole thing, you're going to fail because it's too hard. Even for professionals, people have been doing it forever. And just take it slow, celebrate the small victories for sure. And mostly I have a website, veggiesdon'tbite.com. I have an email list that people can sign up for. Sophia at veggiesdon'tbite.com is my email. You can email me and I can send you a link to get on the list, but there's lots of opt-ins, free things on my website that will help sign you up too. And then social media wise, I'm mostly on Instagram. I mean, I'm everywhere. I'm on Pinterest, Facebook, all the things, but I'm most active on Instagram. That seems to be my favorite place. And if you send me a message there, I'm always going to answer it. And that's where I kind of post the most. That's my jam.
Perfect. I'm going to put all those links in the description box below so people can easily find you, check out your website, join your newsletter. It's always valuable to do that because any new content you have coming out or systems you have in place are going to be there helping people. So important for that. And then Instagram is so valuable too, because yes, Instagram is very popular with people interacting with people in intuitive ways and in very beneficial ways too, because you can send someone a message if they have a question about a post you do. And I'm sure the posts that you're posting are going to be all about wellness and helping people get into a better state of mind and a better life. And that's so important for people right now. So I encourage people to reach out to you, Sophia, and then beginning the steps in the process to get their life back on track. I want to thank you so much for coming on Coaching in Session. Great conversation today. All right, everyone. I'd like to thank you so much for watching that interview with Sophia DeSantis and myself. As you can see, she's a health and wellness coach who's helping people understand what parts of their life can be improved upon. Now, when we look at health and wellness and food and stuff like that, she said something great, right? Some people think like organic is the best, or you have to do this. And we give this misconception to what health is or healthy is. Think of if you are big and beautiful, right? That's a view of being healthy, right? So yeah, you could be big and beautiful, but are you big and healthy? And then she even said that you could be skinny. You could be actually healthier than some of the bigger folks, or actually you can be bigger and be healthier than some of the skinny folks. So it can go both ways, right? Culture can play a big role. Some cultures are just naturally bigger. They just have higher bone density. They have a different type of just genetic composition. So their body might be a little bit bigger. They might, be more round in places that society has said, guess what? If you want to be healthy, man, you have to have a six-pack abs. You need to be able to squat and bench this much. And though that is maybe a good model for a good majority of people, it's not going to be a good model for some people with slender frames or people who don't want to go to the gym and be bulked up, because you can do yoga, be toned, be in shape, have good cardiovascular activity going on in your body. And yet you don't have to be six-pack ab guy, because when we look at what society is telling us or what Hollywood is telling us, they're only giving us the picture perfect. When that picture perfect is in front of us, it can be difficult to move. It can be difficult to take action because we want that life, right? We want that goodness in our life, yet it might be difficult to get it. Yet it might be maybe out of our reach today, but it doesn't have to be out of our reach forever. And then we do have to ask ourselves, do we truly want that life that someone else told us that we should be having, right? That Hollywood mentality. Ladies, the same thing, right? We see our Vogue and we see all of our supermodels and things like that. And we say, oh, I wish I was like her or pretty like her or had a body like her, because that brings happiness, right? Because we see the smiles. We see the good things. We see the glory and the fame, but we don't see the struggle. We don't see maybe the issues going on. An example I want to give is Ariana Grande. Ariana Grande is a very slender, small girl. When she came into the industry, she was a hit sensation. If you look at pictures of her now, she's very skinny, frail, and it's due to, some type of eating disorder she's having right now, or maybe some type of stress she's having in her life. Because to be Ariana Grande, I'm sure it's a lot of stress, because you have your fans, you have, your family, you have all the shows and the publications you have to go to, your record labels, the recordings. I mean, her schedule is packed, and her lifestyle might not even be what she needs. It's just that she's in a fast-paced world right now. It can have a huge effect on your body and your mind. So going through that, right? Is it something that, poor her, she'll get over it? We just have to be aware of that, because we might see that as, oh, she's not taking care of herself. She's the problem. Or maybe it's self-care is something that people are just not aware of until it's like the end of the road. And I want people to understand that we can address the issues that are going on in our life, whether it be a busy schedule, whether it be eating habits, or just the mindset when it comes to our fitness and our mental health, because we can only do so much in our day. And that means we might have to sacrifice some things. I don't want you to sacrifice the big things. I don't want you to sacrifice the things that are going to be detrimental to your success, your glory, to reaching your most desired self and destination. We need to become focused. We need to become aware in exactly what we want to do, what we want to accomplish. Sometimes we're going to not be able to, show up 100% because, again, of our responsibilities, because of environment, because of situations that are out of our control. How can we get control back in our life? How can we start to take back the reins of the carriage that has been going out of control for months or years at this point? We need someone in our corner. And whether you reach out to Sophia DeSantis or you reach out to me here at Reven Concepts and begin the process to get your life back on track is so important for your growth and for the rest of your life. Because you might not be in a Hollywood picture perfect scenario today, but it doesn't mean that we can't make a picture perfect life for ourselves. And it's going to be something that we define, not what someone else defines. So whatever your definition is, we can look for it together and we can reach it together. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, you can email me coachinginsession@gmail.com, and I'll see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone, take care.